I'm going to show you how to make an S3 bucket website. Everything will be within the free tier, and we're going to do it with CloudFormation. So CloudFormation is a way to set up AWS resources using the YAML file. All we have to do is write this one file, run a single command, and it will spin up the infrastructure for us. The infrastructure is fairly simple, but you can do arbitrarily large infrastructure and deploy it all with a single YAML file. So it's a really good capability to have. Here in this file, we always have this line up the top about the AWS template format version, and then we define the resources that will be used as part of our stack. In this case, we have two resources, the site bucket and the site bucket policy. We're going to start with the site bucket. It is of the type AWS S3 : bucket. That's the key for an S3 bucket. We have to set a couple of properties. We need to make sure it's configured for our website. Buckets aren't websites by default, but once we add this property, it will be. We need to define what file within the bucket will be served when someone goes to the website address. So in this case, it's this index.html file, which I've already made as well. And then we need to make the bucket public. By default, when you set up a bucket in AWS, it's not publicly accessible. You have to be logged in with AWS credentials to access the objects inside. But in order to run a website from the bucket, you need it to be publicly accessible. So there's all these sub settings. These are the settings that you have to have in order to have a publicly available S3 bucket. You also have to set a bucket policy. This bucket policy is of type bucket policy, and it's connected to our bucket. Our resource was called site bucket up here, and we're referring to that down here when we do the name of the bucket that the bucket policy is attached to. And then this is a policy document. So it says that you're allowed to get any object in this bucket. Anyone can do it because we have principal star as well, which means the objects are publicly accessible. And then we have these outputs that give us the information we need because we haven't set the bucket name. AWS is going to come up with a bucket name for us. Let's now do this. We do an AWS CloudFormation deploy. The stack is called S3 site. And then the template file would be our template.yaml file. This will now take a while. I'll cut to when it's finished, and then it should say waiting for stack, create, change, update to complete. Depending on what kind of resources you're deploying, this will take a different amount of time. Okay, now it's successfully deployed. Now, it didn't put out our outputs on the screen. We have to actually run another command to get that. So we do AWS CloudFormation describe stacks, stack name, S3 site, -- query, stacks 0 outputs. So this is the bucket, and we will need that bucket name and the website URL. So there's already a website here, but the bucket actually doesn't have the index.html file in it. You can't upload an object into a bucket just by deploying a CloudFormation template. You need to do another command. So we're going to copy this bucket name, AWS S3 CP, index.html, S3 : / and then we put the bucket, and then we put a slash. And this will upload our index.html file. If we get outputs 1 is actually the second output because of how indexing works, and we get that value, that's the website URL. So now we can go to the website URL, and if we pop that up here, we can see that we have test heading, which is what we put in our index.html file. This can be whatever we want now. To update the site, we just copy it up again and reload the page, and we'll get the new web page there. You can use this to distribute whatever kind of content you want. The real limitations are that you're going to have to do additional work to set up a proper domain name. So currently our domain name just has this whole S3 website stuff in it. If you want it to be a website that has your personal domain name, then you're going to need to set some stuff up in Route 53. You also don't have HTTPS. If you want to get HTTPS, but you still want to have this no EC2 instance serverless kind of setup, you're going to want to create a CloudFront distribution. Thanks for watching.